told you I haven't actually seen your name.
Even still, I know your name isn't exactly an unknown anime. Not a lot of anime movies see that much success in the West unless it's either a long-running shonen or a Ghibli movie. I mean, if you look at the highest grossing anime movies, nearly all of the top 10 are by Studio Ghibli. And for a while, it didn't seem like this pattern was going to change. So when your name suddenly went from a pretty good anime that I'd been hearing about every now and then to being the most successful anime movie of all time, to understated, it was a pretty extreme standard for what would come after it. That's not to say your name was even unprecedented either, as its director, Makoto Shinkai, is someone who's had quite a bit of success with anime original movies. Admittedly, I'm generally pretty inexperienced with his words, as prior to seeing Weathering with You, his only movies I'd seen were Garden of Words and 5 centimeters per second. And just like with both of those prior mentioned shows, you are immediately hit with one question upon watching this movie. Why does everything look so good? Well, artistically, it's more similar to Your Name than the aforementioned Garden of Words or 5 wallpapers per second. I cannot stress enough just how good this movie looks, largely in part due to a perfect mix of hand-drawn backgrounds, digitally drawn characters, creative uses of color and lighting, and a mild amount of slave labor. And it all works perfectly to make an absolutely beautiful aesthetic, which itself is helped along by Makoto Shinkai's directing to make it always add an extra layer to the writing. It's always used to convey a mood and a very deliberate tone to help get you into what's happening. The artwork itself helps move along what you're meant to be feeling without needing dialogue alone to do so. It's very obvious when watching his movies that the director and the artist were working very closely together. Weathering with You, or Kenji no To, is about a runaway named Horaka Morishima as he runs away from home to go to Tokyo, as the city is suffering from rain that doesn't seem to be stopping. After getting a job investigating urban legends, he ends up meeting Hina Amano, a girl with the ability to create sunshine wherever she is, and her brother Nagi, who has the ability to obtain an entire harem at 8 years old. Together, the three start a service selling sunshine, temporarily stopping the rain for people by request. Part of what makes the setting so interesting is that, despite its setup, it's never explained why it's actually raining or why Hina is able to stop it. At most, you get some small hints mixed in with offhanded comments or in-universe rumors, but the movie has its priorities and the why isn't very high on that list. Instead, it focuses on the people this phenomenon affects and how they deal with it. The character interactions are the main draw, and I think I found this more apparent here than in his other works that I've seen. Side characters like Nadi or Horata's boss, Suda, were my favorites, though honestly the entire cast is pretty evenly well written, with everyone being fleshed out and having this entertaining kind of chemistry with each other that makes just seeing them together enjoyable. The movie is very straightforward, but not in a bad way. I think the first half or so is a little repetitive sometimes. The movie can easily be divided into thirds. The Hobo arc, the Hustle arc, the New Launder Ruins arc. It follows a pretty standard rule of thirds style of writing. By that I mean the story will reach one of its 3 stages, and generally the events will be repeated 3 or so times, so by the third one you're used to it, and then when a massive change happens after that, it disrupts that feeling. Horata runs away from the city and we watch him try to find work and ways to survive. His failed attempts are repeated about 3 or 4 times, so when someone does help him, it's been repeated enough that you feel his desperation. And you feel his relief when he finally has somewhere to sleep, other than an alley. The midpoint is where this becomes a bit of an issue, as we watch several long, very similar scenes in succession of Hina clearing the sky for people. The beautiful animation makes this much more tolerable than it would be otherwise, but I do feel like you should shorten some of these and move that time to stuff from later on, and it would make the pacing a little bit better. More specifically, I think it'd be improved by shortening one of these scenes and moving it into the ending. I do think the ending could have a little bit more to it. Even still though, it never becomes a major issue, and it's really more of a nitpick than anything. The second half is where the movie picks up story-wise, as the slow pacing suddenly speeds up in a very natural way, without getting so fast that it's confusing. It has a great sense of keeping things moving along too fast for you to predict what'll happen, but not going so fast that you can't process everything. And it manages to blindside you with a reveal that otherwise you might have predicted. And while I think taking away 10 or so minutes from the midpoint and using them to extend the end would have been appreciated, in general I'd say it wraps up in a pretty satisfying way. The soundtrack and the way it's used is another aspect I loved, with it being both an excellent soundtrack on its own as well as a huge part of some of the memorable scenes. They're done by Radwimps, who also worked on Your Name. Beyond that, I haven't heard them very much in other anime, and I would really like to see them more often, as nearly all the songs they contributed are among the best in the movie, and I still regularly listen to a lot of them. Overall, I'd say this is easily one of the best anime movies I've seen, both artistically and writing-wise. If you get the chance to see it in theaters, I 100% recommend it, as it does make you appreciate the absolute insane amount of detail put into every shot. So overall, I would fully recommend Weathering with You. Thank you for watching.